Good morning. I'm Dr. Hassan Sadri with Visionary Eye Institute at Newport Beach, California. We're here live at OIS at AAO 2019 in beautiful, sunny, actually now San Francisco, which is unusual. I'm here with Sue, who's very, very excited to have you come over and join us today. Sue, tell us a little bit about you and your company and about your mission. Tell us.
Yeah, so AGTC is a gene therapy company, and we were founded by virologists who really were interested in appropriately applying genetic information to a patient and being able to make a difference in their lives. And we're focused on rare indications, and our most advanced indications are in ophthalmology, which is why I'm here today at OIS.
That's terrific. So how long have you been in the industry of ophthalmology as a company?
18 years.
18 years, terrific. And so the gene therapy's come along, obviously a long way, and you're very important. What made you specifically hone in on ophthalmology versus other inborn errors, metabolism, other disease states? Would you recommend? Yeah.
So we started out life as a respiratory company. We were working on a treatment for alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. And in the early days of gene therapy, manufacturing and dosing were problematic. We hadn't figured out a lot of things yet.
Absolutely.
It was very early times. And so the idea of going after a product that we needed such large doses became daunting. And so we refocused the company on ophthalmology several years ago, mainly through our interactions with one of our founders and the Foundation Fighting Blindness, which is the largest patient advocacy group in the space. And we just got very excited about that space, about the work that they were doing as a foundation, and our ability to partner with patients and a patient advocacy group to really understand what these diseases mean to them.
So it's interesting. So the foundation essentially allowed you to get the platform for the indications and really find you the market, really, at the end, correct?
Yes, they funded some basic research at one of our founders' labs. They actually funded us to work with an animal model, an animal colony at the University of Pennsylvania, and then they gave us a grant to start work on the very first product that we worked on in ophthalmology.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us, what's unique about you and in the space. You're doing a lot of heavy lifting, obviously. Tell us about what's coming down the pike for you guys as far as clinicals and some exciting things that you're working on.
Right, so we do have this focus in ophthalmology and in inherited retinal diseases. So the two indications that we're most focused on right now, one is X-linked retinitis pigmentosa. So this is a form of retinitis pigmentosa caused by mutations in a gene that helps make a protein that moves proteins between the inner and outer segment of photoreceptors. And if you can't move the proteins between the inner and outer segment, you lose vision over time. This is a very devastating disease for the patients. They start with decent vision when they're first born, but then they start losing their night vision, they lose their peripheral vision. In their middle ages, they really have very tunnel vision. Just their foveal vision is left, and then somewhere between 45 and 55, they lose even that vision. And so it's a disease that's progressive, and every day these patients know what's happening to them. So it's a severe unmet need, and we're very excited to be working in this space. The other indication we're working on is another rare disease, but it's completely different phenotype. So this is an indication called achromatopsia. And in achromatopsia, the rod photoreceptors work fine. The cone photoreceptors don't work at all.
You lose color.
Yeah, so they lose color. They're also legally blind, right? Because your rods are not very good at visual acuity. So they're all legally blind, 2200 vision or worse. And they're also exceptionally sensitive to light because it's your cones that provide your daytime vision. So this lighting we have here today,
devastating.
They would be wearing tinted contacts, heavy goggles, and a hat to try and shade their eyes so that at least their rods could work.
Sure.
So another very severe indication that affects people's daily living, the jobs they choose, the place they choose to live, etc. And we're very excited to be bringing a product forward for these patients as well.
Terrific. I mean, as a clinician, I see patients with X-linked RP, and I actually have a personal history with this, because when I was in a laboratory at University of Michigan, I actually worked on X-linked RP.
Okay.
That's how I got me started in ophthalmology, so we kind of have a connection there, which is interesting. And as a clinician, geez, I can tell you, like 2 weeks ago, I just saw a patient in her 40s, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, at least with the current therapies that are FDA approved, it's the most devastating feeling of an ophthalmologist, because as you nailed it, it's, you get scotomas, you get this waxiness of the optic nerve, you get cataracts with it potentially. And the patient says, "I beg you, is there anything? Is there anything?"
Right.
So now I'm going to give him your card.
Okay, all right. Well, University of Michigan is one of our clinical trial sites, so you can let them know that.
Excellent, yeah. And so I think that's really interesting, because your perspective on unmet needs and really this rare disease states, it lends itself to be super focused, right, as a company.
Yes.
So that's a good thing when it comes to limited resources, right?
Exactly, because when you're talking about the orphan space, the size of the trials that you have to do, or that you can do because of the small patient populations, are manageable by a small company.
Sure.
You start looking into dry eye or glaucoma or AMD. These are very, very large trials that are more challenging for a smaller company to address. That being said, based on all we've learned in this space, we did recently announce that we were beginning a preclinical program in dry AMD.
Sure.
And so we're going to leverage all that we've learned about customizing the vector for the eye to a different space.
Okay, so tell us, 2019 right now, no one has a crystal ball. Tell us a little bit, educate our audience on approval process, and also what's unique in your space, and what's your timeline like, and what's your thoughts there?
Well, about a week and a half ago, we were lucky to be able to release some very positive data in both the XLRP and the achromatopsia program. So that's phase 1-2 data that says that the product is generally safe and well tolerated, and very encouraging signs of biological activity and efficacy in both the XLRP program and the achromatopsia program. So our plan right now is we will finish those phase 1-2 trials, take the data to the FDA, and then what happens is there's an end of phase 2 meeting where you sit down with the FDA and you talk about what would a pivotal trial look like, which is the trial that you need to file for a license application and then be able to commercialize. So you have to come to agreement with the agency on what that trial looks like. What is the dose going to be? What's the control arm going to be? Sometimes it's a lower dose. Sometimes it's an untreated control arm. How many patients are you going to treat? How long are you going to follow them? And importantly, what is going to be your primary endpoint? So the endpoint that you're going to look for an improvement in to be able to say, yes, this product will be beneficial. And in orphan indications, that primary endpoint is sometimes quite challenging, because as you pointed out, there's not other products that have been approved. And so part of what you're doing there, in what we've done in our phase 1-2, is tested a wide variety of endpoints to try and find the one that most correlates to the patient's improvement, how they benefit. I was at a meeting yesterday, and I listened to Wiley Chambers, who's one of the head now of the new ophthalmology office at the FDA, and he said, the measurements, you guys can talk about endpoints, the patients know when the product is working, and so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for what is the endpoint that correlates to that patient's understanding, this product is working and I feel better.
That's terrific. That's really terrific, because it's kind of a nice road to be able to educate others that in the future might go after other disease states using the same modalities that you're using.
So we hope to be in that pivotal trial for XLRP in 2020.
Okay, and then take us through that. When you go through that, what does that timeline look like? When does that 40-year-old that came to my clinic, if she's not in the trial, when in the perfect world, when would she have access?
That is really very difficult to say, because how long that pivotal trial takes depends on what the agreement is with the FDA as far as the number of patients. We would hope that if you look back in history at other rare diseases that have been approved, that pivotal process can take 2 to 3 years. We would hope we could not make it any longer, for sure, and might be able to be more efficient and effective at marching through that process. And then, of course, you have to file the BLA, have the FDA review that, and hopefully approve the product.
Yeah, very good, very good. I mean, it's exciting as clinicians, people in managing these patients, to be able to have something to talk about. because then for the last few years we've had nothing, and so it's great. Tell us a little bit about your career real quick, because there's some people always looking at, how do I get into the industry? I'm young and this is what I want to do. What'd you do? What'd you study?
So I have a degree in biochemistry, and I worked for Big Pharma for a while. I think a lot of us in the smaller biotechs have gotten the foundation there. I worked for Abbott Labs and Eli Lilly, and I think that I always recommend to younger people that they do at least a little bit of a stint at larger companies, because I think it gives them an idea of what are all the pieces and parts, what are the different functional areas, how do they work with each other, and then big companies aren't for everyone. Ended up not being for me, and then I took a step back. I got an MBA and was able to work in sales and marketing outside of science and show that I could have some success outside of the science. And then I started at AGTC 18 years ago.
Very good. Congratulations on all your endeavors. Thank you. And then last but not least, what do you think about OIS's role in your company and what you're doing? How is that benefiting you?
So I'm one that's been here at OIS and hung out with Bill and Emmett and Gil from Interwest for many years, since the beginning. And I think that what this meeting does, it's like a one-stop shop. So everyone that's working in ophthalmology gathers together for this very intensive day, and you learn about what's going on across the industry. What are other people doing that's working, or what are other people doing that's not working? And then you're able to bring that information into your own organization. So I think it's a really wonderful event, and I look forward to it every year.
Very good. It's a pleasure meeting you, Sue.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.